National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby, being asked today by CNN's Kate Bolduan about reports that the U.S. won't participate in a counterstrike against Iran after their attempted strike on Israel this weekend. Everything is reading tea leaves at this point, but let's play this clip.
So CNN reporting is the following, John. President Joe Biden and senior members of his national security team have told their counterparts the United States will not participate in any offensive action against Iran. That's according to U.S. officials familiar with the matter. I've seen similar reporting in Reuters, Axios, CBS News, The Washington Post, and many more. I list that out to ask you, is that reporting accurate? Is that the position of the Biden administration?
I really can't go any further than what I've gone to here this morning, Kate. I'm not going to get into the diplomatic conversations that the president and the prime minister had on Saturday night or have had at any other time. We want to make sure that Israel can defend itself. We actively participated in that self-defense on Saturday night. We will stay committed to Israel's self-defense. At the same time, we want to see tensions de-escalated. We don't want to see a war with Iran, and we certainly aren't looking for a wider conflict in the region.
Do you dispute that reporting?
Again, I think I'm just going to leave it right at that.
I mean, I can understand the reporting's out there. He doesn't dispute that reporting, so that's something there. But to be clear, it is the reporting is that the U.S. will not participate in any offensive action against Iran. And it's unclear to me, like, what are the parameters for that?
Yeah.
So is it at this point, I think there is a sense, at least within the international community, at least a sense that, like, we're back at baseline. We're back at zero. You struck Iran's interests. Iran has returned the favor, albeit with even more restraint, it seems. And now we're at zero. So anything that Israel does, and again, this is just me speculating, it becomes offensive. It's unclear what happens if Israel strikes Iran in some fashion, and then Iran strikes again. But hopefully, and this is coming on a day too, where you have the New York Times saying that you must condition aid to Israel in some fashion based upon their behavior. Now, a lot of it is like sort of function of Netanyahu, et cetera, et cetera.
And it's also completely, I mean, we shouldn't even be giving any aid. We should be sanctioning Israel at this point.
It is
so insufficient.
It is but it is also, it's the New York Times. They're coming around. And so it in some ways, shrinks part of the Overton window, right? Like, how unreasonable do you have to be that the New York Times is even saying condition aid?
Which is amazing, too, because Fetterman was going on TV and saying that Biden is responding to the fringe of the party, when that is not the case at this point. Fetterman is the fringe. The
majority of Democrats want aid conditioned.
A majority of Democrats have wanted a ceasefire for months at this point. And we are still not in that kind of situation. The majority of Democrats have disapproved of Israel's actions for quite a while. New polling shows that now people sympathize in the Democratic voting base more with Palestinians at this point than they do with Israelis. So the fringe of the party is the people that want to continue to fund Israel without any conditions. But Ben-Gvir, who is a cabinet member, was saying that, Israel needs to respond. It cannot be wimpy like we've seen, that they need to respond to Iran here. The goal of this is to draw the United States and the Western world back into support for Israel if Iran is involved, right? Because they are noticing that Western support is waning. Domestically, there's pressure on Biden not to support Israel in the way that he has. So how can you galvanize Western support? Well, there's a ton of neocons in the United States and elsewhere that are extremely antagonistic towards Iran. And that's, I think, the play here, which is that we're losing support. If we make this into a broader regional conflict, the United States is going to have to come to our defense if Iran does something more devastating than what they did. And we said this to start the show. They are being extremely restrained, Iran was, because they know if they didn't telegraph their response for 2 weeks, if they were more devastating, if they killed Israeli civilians, this administration, I think, would back Israel.
It creates more pressure. I mean, the only thing I would amend to what you just said is this has been Israel's game plan from day one.
Yeah.
I mean, they were attempting to instigate a wider regional conflict because if they could draw in the U.S., everybody's in the same barrel at that point, and Israel is no longer, sort of an outlier in terms of their actions. And now, it's possible they could imagine the level of unconditional support from Joe Biden. I find it hard to believe that anybody contemplated that beforehand, because I think that certainly has been a surprise when you start to see all these, dissents, cable dissents out of the State Department. When you start to see, 25 senators now, like sort of with rumblings of we've got to stop this. I think a lot of people were surprised by the level of Joe Biden's commitment, blind commitment to whatever Israel was going to do. So it's surprising, but I think that Israel has attempted to expand this into a regional war from the very beginning and has gotten more and more bold because they had to.
Netanyahu's been trying to antagonize a U.S. relationship with Iran for decades.
Yes.
Since I
100%.
mean, the part of the reason that Trump, just one of it was just ego, right? Obama negotiated this Iran nuclear deal, which was very good. I have to scrap it because I hate Obama. But in part, it was also Netanyahu coming out and saying that he had evidence. The evidence was extremely threadbare and honestly non-existent, that Iran was cheating on the nuclear deal. And that was, Trump scrapped it. And that has inflamed tensions with Iran and has cut off, those efforts to normalize and reduce tensions there. So this is the long game. I mean, these are extremely crazy fascist people that want to expand this war so Israel can continue to take territory.
Let's go to the IMs. Tacoma wept. Clarence Thomas had an unexplained absence from moral arguments this morning. Get up to anything interesting this weekend, Sam? I have no idea what you're talking about.
I felt that way with OJ on Thursday.
Is he still here? Thomas, have they found him?
Yeah, I just saw the report, so I'll double check and see if anything's different.
I doubt it, but saw that Matthew from Philadelphia saw that a wayward progressive YouTube commentator regularly watches a few small right-wing shows whom she says say what they mean for research purposes. Whom do you guys watch? I'm not sure what I even understand what that means. But whom do I watch? I don't watch really anybody on any type of regularity.
I don't watch like any of these people for research purposes. I watch Dave Rubin or Ben Shapiro or Tim Pool or Crowder for content that I can clip and make into a product.
What would be the research?
Let's see. You got to hear both sides, Sam.
Amy, the Golden Gate Bridge has been shut down in Gaza protests. Great. Mike from Texas, what are the chances that Fetterman would eventually pull a Charlie Crist or a Kristen Sinema and run as an independent or even a Republican, which would allow him to still win in purple PA? I think it would be a mistake for him to run as a Republican, frankly, in PA. I don't think he'll do that. New York Times coming around. Why should we celebrate Biden's message about not participating in the offensive against Iran? The Iran attack has given Israel the best distraction to continue to increase settler violence while the world's eyes are on the Iran-Israel escalation. Media and looks like even you are not talking about Gaza today or until the Iran-Israel conflict becomes center point. Well, first off, I don't know what you mean by celebrate. We're reporting on it. It's a better thing that they're not going to participate than participate. But the idea of like
The distraction theory of politics. I'm
is
sorry.
so
it's so
dumb.
stupid. They don't care.
I'm sorry. Like, look, this conflict between Israel and Iran is not so that they don't have to account for killing people in the West Bank or for continued bombing in Gaza.
They already don't.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd. That is not, I mean, it's absurd. They had no distraction when they were killing tens of thousands of people. And do they want to expand this to a regional war? Yes, we've just talked about that.
No one's celebrating too. I just find that
such
to
a
be
weird-
This comes from people only being empowered by consuming media. And it's like, okay, if I'm paying attention to the right thing, then everything's right in the world. Actually, no, it's going to take like protest and getting involved in organizations. And it's not, and you see this all the time with the right wing. It's like, this story is trying to distract us from Hunter Biden's laptop. And it's like, no, there's actually just different things going on in the world.
Right.